we refer to ourselves as an AI first product, but we existed, before this craze. And so AI is a tool that makes our products even better. And we have a slew of AI products now. We just talked about personalization, recommendation, our neural search, neural hashing thing, which the other thing about AI is a lot of it's slow and really expensive to run. Neural hashing, it's pretty cool. It's built off of
Have you ever talked about a product or company to your friend, relative, or significant other, only to suddenly start seeing ads on your feed? Is that a weird coincidence, or is something more malicious happening? Welcome back to the Lessons for Tomorrow podcast, the motivational poster in your ear. I'm your guest host, Brendan Cameron, Strategic Accounts Director at AmericanEagle.com. And in this episode, we're going to dive into AI for search and personalization. Is it helpful or creepy? To discuss this, I'm joined by our special guest speaker, Nick Vlku from Algolia.
You got that right. Those people get Vlku wrong. They're like, Vlku, how does that work? So glad to be here on this cold, blustery Chicagoland day.
Yeah, it's always nice to go from Christmas at 50 degrees to sitting here at -5 now. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, to start things off, you want to give a little bit of background about Algolia and yourself?
Yeah, sure. So Algolia is a search solution. It's kind of a SaaS product where you can easily integrate and not have to worry about managing or maintaining servers or anything like that. We just kind of help you make discovery easier for your customers and clients. Me, myself, have been here for about 3 years. I run growth, and that's like a very vague term. But essentially, I'm responsible for making the product demonstrate value with just the product, as opposed to talking to reps or support. You should be able to get your hands dirty with the product pretty quickly. So I'm also in charge of the developer experience around the product too. So making that easy. And that's kind of my day-to-day. I'm a developer, engineer by trade, and kind of moonlight as a marketer and a developer nowadays.
All right. And then when it comes to Algolia, I know you guys have a lot with that hot button topic like AI. So I'll let you kind of start out. I mean, what are your thoughts, even outside of Algolia, about AI, artificial intelligence, and kind of life today?
So I think there's a lot of hype, and I think you're starting to see a little bit of the backlash to the hype, to some, that trough of disillusionment coming up. But I think in the end, it's going to end up being a tool. It's gonna be a tool like everything else. Like I remember, imagine when databases came out, everything was like database this, database that. And I think we're seeing that like AI this, AI that. But in actuality, it's supposed to just make your life easier and make your customer's life easier. It shouldn't do it's not gonna, I don't think it's gonna start Skynet. I think it's, I know that people worried about that, but I do think in the end, people who get good with AI will become faster at their jobs and become more productive.
Yeah, I've seen it to where I have a prediction in 2025 that a AI prompt engineer is going to be a title out there. Like, I almost feel like you're going to have that knowledge of, at least you don't have to know code anymore.
Yeah.
You just have to know how to speak to something.
I mean, it's funny you say that, because I feel like in studies have shown that Gen Z and Gen Alpha and its nascent use of the internet actually do use AI a lot.
Yeah.
And so it's going to be funny. They're going to just jump into this industry, and just because they've been using it for school and they've been using it in their personal life planning, they just don't even realize they're doing that prompt engineering stuff. And I think it's going to be a bigger and bigger part of people's jobs and full-time jobs.
It was, I think, a New York Times article, or New York Post article, I'm sorry, where they said that they were getting task paralysis.
Yeah.
Because essentially they have to ask AI what's the best way to go about their day. So, I mean, if you have people letting their lives be led by it, I think it's definitely here to stay.
Yeah.
But when we're talking about AI for Algolia, what are we talking about? We're talking about on-site search and your discovery experience.
Yeah, exactly. So I think a lot of people have started conflating Gen AI with AI, and what we were just talking about was more of Gen AI, like the chatbot, the thing you talk to. But the fact of the matter is, AI has been around for a while. Yeah. It hasn't just shown up 2 years ago. I think a lot of people, it's on their radar now because they more directly feel it. But we've been dealing with AI for at least a decade now, machine learning, trying to optimize in subtle ways, what you see, and honestly, in some cases, what you think.
Yeah, I always like putting it's the tip of your tongue assistant.
That's right.
When you don't know that word or that thing you're looking for, it helps with intent. It helps with reading the context. I mean, working with some of the advanced out there, for anyone that's kind of questioning how search works. Search is typically run via an index or some kind of separate database. And then instead of referencing like your e-commerce structure or your product structure, it's pulling it out of the index for more performance. But the reason I bring that up um, is I want to talk a little bit about some of the other algorithms you're running, like
Yeah,
the
yeah,
neural hashing,
exactly.
the contextual, because I think that's where AI comes into. Can you explain like that neural hash archetype?
Yeah, sure. So like what you refer to, like traditional search engines are keyword search. And I think, even my parents know what that means. They look at words and they find words that are related to words, and that's how search works. But neural hashing is a little different. And it does use these same AI models under the hood. And what it does is it looks at an item, could be like, a pair of pants or something like that, and it will determine characteristics of those pants. And then it will find similar things to those pants based on its knowledge of the world. So you can do really interesting things like ask it for like, hey, I need like a summer dress for a beach party. And the item itself might not actually have summer dress beach party in it. And it will still come up because it can tell by the characteristics of the item that, oh, it is very close to these other things that are similar to that.
Yeah, you guys had a really good infographic on the site. I'm not sure if it's there anymore, but one of the best search experiences I've seen is you type in something like keep my tea warm.
Yep.
Traditional keyword, it's going to find, the tea bags you sell, the mugs you sell, things like that. With that neural hashing and the contextual side of it, you're going to get like thermoses, you're going to get the electric heaters, you're going to get tea kettles, you're going to get, again, that context, I think is the
My
important thing.
favorite example of this is we have a few large like pharmaceutical type of companies as customers, and one of my favorite is you can search for car sick and Dramamine would come up. And
Mhm.
Dramamine doesn't actually say that explicitly in their packaging because they kind of can't, but everyone uses it for that. So it's
Yeah.
it's amazing to get that inference out there, and it's beyond search. I think that's the important part here, and this is where we start talking into creepy or not, because I think no one thinks it's creepy when you search for car sink sick Dramamine comes up. But I think people sometimes get creeped out when they get suggestions that feel like it's reading their mind. And
Yeah.
that's it's funny, it's kind of the same algorithm. Like the same algorithm that determines these things are related to each other looks at what you're doing and then provides suggestions or recommendations based on either what you've been looking for or what you've previously had a preference towards. So I think that that's the part that's like, ooh,
Yeah.
how does it do this? How does it figure this out? Which I think people are a little
Yeah,
freaked out
and
at.
this is the things that, yeah, on social media, they're called remarketing ads.
Yeah.
If you're on blogs or anything, you see, or and for our locals out there, the Chicago Sun Times, Tribune sites, you always see those banners on the articles. That's using, again, yeah, that remarketing or knowledge graphing. So essentially, based on where you fit, it will, put you into a certain bucket and then start feeding you all of the ads and products that are related to that bucket. So if you search for, you know, tea or keeping my tea warm, you're going to get all this stuff from Bed Bath and Beyond and
Yep.
all of the various, accessories that go with it. Now, it does your discover piece, does your recommendations kind of run in that same path? And
Yeah, so there's a few. I mean, so what's great about recommendations is there's many different hacks to it. Like one of the things we have a bunch of models, and one of them is a look and similar model, which will just basically find things that look similar to that. Very useful for fashion, very useful for clothing, shoes, things like that. But we also have other models that are related to people who buy this also buy this, or people who look at this also look at this similar thing. So we have a ton of models, and essentially what's great about Algolia is a lot of the smarts behind. I'm not the math guy with this stuff, but we have a bunch of people like that. And you literally just flip a switch and you can use these things. It's actually one of part of in growth. What I look for is magic moments, like moments where people go, oh, wow, or aha. And one of the magic moments I'd love seeing developers see is when they like turn this thing on and then with like 2 or 3 lines of code, they could literally get like a recommendation bar that's like very, again, creepy accurate. But we also find creepy is a funny word because the more perfect the match, the creepier some people feel it is.
yeah,
It's like, oh, you really read my mind. If you're really bad at recommendations, people don't really think you're creepy. They just think you're bad at your job. But if you're good at your recommendations, it can look creepy. But I think it goes back to creepy is not understanding the magic.
yeah,
I think people really don't mind and in fact prefer personalized experiences. If you go to a store and it's got nothing related to anything you're interested in, you're just not going to shop there. People will literally leave. But you have to explain why, and you have to be upfront with it. And I think
Yeah.
that that's the important part.
And that's the nice thing too, because putting in the recommendations and being able to illustrate or verbalize what it is, that's where you see on product detail pages, customers also bought. You're understanding that it's reading what other carts are, what other orders are, and presenting that information, trending or comparable, others in the same style. I do like that. And I think, yeah, whenever I have dived into like the AI portion of it, doing my research and talking to people, it is that whole trust issue because we kind of talk about, reading carts, reading orders. It is looking at the data, but people are scared that it's getting their social security number, things
Yeah.
like that. I think we just have to alleviate. This is not whenever you see the cookie site, always read it. I know nobody ever does,
Yeah.
but a lot of times it's just generic information, right?
Right.
Like, what are you
It's all
pulling
an
out?
aggregate. I
Yeah.
mean, my favorite example, not in the e-commerce space, but personally, just I'm a huge fan of is Spotify. Spotify has this weekly Discover Weekly list where
Mhm.
it literally curates a custom playlist, and honestly, I get some really great songs there. At least 2 or 3 a month from that list gets added to my rotation, and it looks at everyone's behavior in aggregate. It's like, oh, you really like Blink 182. Here are things that people who like Blink 182 tend to like. So it's all behavioral, but I think people don't think that the Spotify thing is that creepy because you can kind of intuit it. Like,
Yeah.
oh, I get how this works. And I think for some of this stuff, we just have to be upfront. We have to like those cookie banners no one reads. Um, People will not start reading those. But I think there's ways to educate people as they become more and more savvy. And again, Gen Z and Gen Alpha, they get this. They know how this works. So there's not much education there. They've lived on TikTok, they've lived on YouTube, they've seen these engines work. So for them at least, and these newer generations, it's not just not creepy, it's table stakes. You
Yeah.
can't reach out to them and connect with them if you don't do it.
Yeah. And when I look at it, it's always going to be the authority. A lot of times, you'll if you're in the SEO side of things and you're doing your Google AdWords or your page health, you're going to see that authority score.
Yep.
Um, that's how I run it off of. Is you want to make sure that you're just being the authority in the subject. You're being a trustworthy site. Um, and the more we have of that, the more I think consumers are going to understand it, use it. But at the end of the day, I think it's performance based. Like you said, if it's not doing its job, it's going to just not be worth it.
Exactly, it'll peter away, and we know it is.
Yeah.
That's the spoiler alert. But it's funny. It's also doing something at scale that some people have had access to. Like I always think of like the personal shopper concept, and like I've never had a personal shopper. I feel like that's not something normal average people have. But I know that like, you go to like a Nordstrom or something like that, that existed and that still exists and it is very effective. So how do we democratize that concept? How do we give everyone the ability to like a personal shopper to help them guide, oh, this new suit came out. You love suits. This is your style. And that's where the value comes in. It's just, people have to understand where the value, how it's created. And I think these kinds of conversations, I have these during Christmas. I have these with like my parents and friends who are not as savvy. It's just understanding how it works is really, really important.
And even in the search itself, like, you know, Amazon's the killer in e-commerce because they're applying this, they're using it. Long and for definition, long tail searches are the ones where you can ask a question or you have a lot of information in the search. Short tail, of course, is that one or two word search. This is, I think, where AI has the strongest advantage because if I've been on the site multiple times and I type in shirt, I want to see my favorite color, my favorite brand. And there's no way that a merchandiser or marketing agent is going to be like, okay, Brendan's favorite color is red, so boost the red items. Brendan's, favorite brand is Under Armour, so boost the Under Armour products. Like
Yeah.
that's not a scalable thing. And I think that's that perfect thing for AI. I mean, what's your on personalization for that type of stuff?
Yeah, exactly. I think there's two levels. There's like aggregate cut behavior, and then if we know who you are, we can actually start looking at your activity. And what's great about at least what I love about what we do is we tend to be we're siloed to our customers. So like, if we have 2 or 3 customers that are either in the same industry or, in some cases competitors, the data is now leaking between these customers. Like the data that is being presented when you go to like one of our customers in the e-commerce space or even in the non-e-commerce space is really built around the profile of your behavior in that space. So it'll be like, oh, Brendan's bought these things from us before. We should show similar things. And then it also takes into account like seasonality as well. It's like, oh, it's Christmas. Let's show Christmas things. It's tax time. Let's show tax like related software. There's a lot of ways to like mash these things together. And the best systems do both at the same time. So it's a mix of like whatever what the masses are looking for because you're part of the masses, but it's also a mix of like your slice of the masses. And that's the sweet spot. And that's the spot that just honestly takes a lot. It takes a lot of under the hood. It takes so much effort. It takes
Yeah.
so much effort on algorithms, on language models design. It takes effort on like getting all the data and making sense out of it. And that's the kind of stuff that like, you say Amazon is one of the gold stars. They have like a building of people to do this. So how can you compete with Amazon's building in Seattle? The way you do it is you rely on us and other providers to like just stand on the shoulders of us and we provide that for you.
Well, that's what I also see is a lot of people are excited about it and they want to get like an open AI license or a chat GPT license. And they want to start building these things. And it's just that the investment, that barrier to entry. I mean, I feel that AI productization is probably one of the best pieces. And I've seen this chart before. I've used this chart in presentations. I think that's the other danger though, is that you're going to have, I think it was 2 years ago, there's over 300 companies in Silicon Valley that were founded just on the basis of AI.
Yep.
Now I think it's over 1,000. In 3 to 5 years, it'll probably be, well, I say it's a coin flip, either more or less.
Yeah.
Either, they're acquisition modeled. They're just trying to be big and loud and get acquired, or they're trying to do something and it may or may not work out. So when looking at just AI, if you could talk to somebody with an e-commerce site that's looking to kind of do it, what is that recommendation?
So
buy Algolia.
No, buy Algolia, please. It's my job. But no, what I would say is even what you just said earlier, I think a lot, if you're starting a company and your entire hook is my company is AI plus something, I don't think you're going to win. I think the way you win is you have an idea and AI helps your idea. Like if you take a company that already exists today, I'm like, I'm just going to make that same exact company. But I'm going to be AI first. I think in the end, there's not a lot of legs there. But I do think it goes back to like, I'm going to build a database company because databases are super popular right now. And like, 20 years ago, I think you need to bring that value. And what I love about Algolia is we've been around forever. It's like 12 years or something. And we, which is a lot in startup time. And we have just so much data and activity, like trillions of requests on our platform. So that means we have learned a lot of hard lessons, which also means that we can use those lessons to build a better product. Our product, we refer to ourselves as an AI first product, but we existed, before this craze. And so AI is a tool that makes our products even better. And we have a slew of AI products now. We just talked about personalization, recommendation, our neural search, neural hashing thing, which the other thing about AI is a lot of it's slow and really expensive to run. Neural hashing, it's pretty cool. It's built off of the concept of a white paper of from Nature magazine of like how flies see the world, which is kind of crazy because they have like 1 million like lenses or 1,000 lenses. And so that biological idea is kind of the foundation of neural hashing, which is kind of cool. But it's fast. And again, it's something that we learned because we couldn't launch on day one with a slow solution because we just have too much. Mm-hmm. And with e-commerce, speed is everything. Like you make a search query, take 100 milliseconds, game over, man. You want that to be like 10, 20, 30 milliseconds. 200 at the upper bound. And so that it was a non-starter for us till we solved that problem.
Yeah. And when dealing with this, I think that looking at the history and looking at the longevity, because when people are investing, the issue is that you're putting in a lot of money, and especially because people are, fighting the Amazons. A lot of our customers are mom and pop, I think that's a majority of your customers. Mm-hmm. You can't ask somebody to invest the type of work it would be to build like a raw AI or just using an API, having all of that experience tackled into one, or being able to fully vet, I think, those companies you're dealing with.
Yeah. And I think that's where people are also figuring that out too.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, like no one, if you spin this again back to the database analogy, no one today in their right mind is like, I am going to build a relational database for my like mom and pop e-commerce solution. MySQL, I'm not using that. And I think you're going to start seeing that world happen in the AI world. And you're seeing, you have the closed source models, the open source models. You're seeing people build on top of those. But again, I think it really is. It's just like everything else. It's a tool, and how do you evaluate the tool? And customers struggle with that too. Like a lot of our customers, um, it's not ephemeral, but it's a very hard thing to value test without trying it for real.
Yeah.
Like, so.
And I do like, so this is the thing I do when I start kicking off strategies and projects. For anyone out there, you could sign up for an Algolia account. You can get access to a dev license for free. And in the dashboard, you can actually upload the records directly into Algolia. That's the first step I take, because AI, and I'm sure you could echo this, AI is 100% run on data.
Yep.
Like if you don't have the data, if you don't have the red in a red shirt, how can you expect customers to find it? So that's one of the first pieces I go into. A lot of people call it a large language model, a data lake. Honestly, just good information is what's going to run it. You can't like fix bad data, no matter what kind of AI or tools you're using.
Garbage in, garbage out is what they say. No, it's exactly right. And and our free plan, by the way, thanks for the call out. Should be my job. Is the free plan also is really generous because the data is so important. So we give people 1 million free records to play with the product. Really, the way we want you to do everything, but get to a point where get you to production.
Yeah.
And then once you're in production, you're comfortable, then we turn on like how we price and how we bill. And we both have pay-go plans, which, are like easy, Amazon or those things. And then we also have commits. But I would also say that it's one of the things we always do, because again, it goes back to like, how do we show value, is we make our customers A/B test. Like you have to see how it looks with and without, and see the data come in, because otherwise you're just not making a data driven decision on the product. So we're very, very big on turn it on, run half on, half off, see how it looks, things like that, because it's really, really important that people you really have to be invested. It's a commitment. You have to be invested in it. And that's the best way we've seen to get it done.
And I mean, this is just telling people like what we've seen. I'm mainly in the B2B sector.
Yep.
Like I do a lot of distribution and wholesale. They're typically lagging 10, 15 years behind on kind of current technology, just because, that sector is definitely in its infancy. But the sites we launched, with AI built into the system on a lot of these, and especially in the on-site search. Out of my pool of about 24 customers in recent launches, we have over a 67% first contact with the search bar. Like this is a company, these are the types of companies that their customers have been with them for 20, 30, 40 years. They're definitely in the Gen X and kind of near retirement type of customers. And we're still seeing that type of thing. So even though everyone's talking about like Gen Z and Gen Alpha coming up and we have to prepare, honestly, with good implementation and good results, everyone's using it. That's 2/3 of people I had to fight with that said, we just put it behind a button. Like we don't need a search bar. Nobody uses it. Nobody used it because it was terrible before.
Right. No, it's funny you mention that, because you're right. There's the unglamorous, but extremely important, keeps, everything working and running in the country and in the world, B2B side.
Mm-hmm.
And B2B, we have a bunch of B2B customers, and they're names that are not, no one knows these names, but I guarantee you know
everyone
what they do.
knows them.
Exactly. And so what's interesting is we see a massive, massive amount of these customers who live and die on search, because in a lot of cases, they're like, their customers look for part numbers and things like that. And the real value of AI here was the AI lets you find other parts that can meet your need. Like in a lot of cases, you like have an old fridge, the part might be gone. It might not be produced anymore, but there is a replacement part out there. And that is where the power of search is.
Competitive part numbers.
Even,
universal part numbers.
Exactly.
It's one of those pieces to where, and again, large data, how do you do a search against a $2.5 million, or that's even small. I have clients that are 7-8 million SKUs.
Yep.
And, they're going to type in fastener. They're going to type in, cable connector and expect to find their product.
Right.
And, You're not doing that with a basic keyword
No, it's funny you
search.
mentioned that because I think the reason why search is very simple, or people thought in B2B, is because the expectation is you're going to look for RL0917 in the search box. So, you don't really need complicated search. Just find that string. But in actuality, it's exactly what you said. There's way more than that. What if that part doesn't exist anymore? What if I need a similar part? What if I have a photo of the part? I don't even know what the part is. That's where looking similar comes in handy. Like your customers are going to, your customers expect you to answer their question on their terms.
Well, it's the reporting too.
Yeah.
Because before launch, we were told all of our customers search by part number. That's how they always search.
Yeah.
We go live. I go into the analytics or report section of Algolia, and here they're searching for cable connector, junction box, battleship, like, strut supports. It's like, oh no, they actually do search for keywords. It's because when they tried doing that before, it didn't work.
Zero results. Exactly. Exactly. And it's funny you mention that, because one of the techniques where AI helps a lot is on this long tail, where you get zero or very few bad search results. And a lot of merchandisers that we have, like literally there's like an army, and they like go and look at the zero results, null results, we call them, and like make manual results. And that is an extremely inefficient use of time.
Yeah.
For people. So AI kind of helps pick those up. And if something does bubble up, then you can handle some curation. But like the goal here is you're going to have like 20% of your search queries are going to be like long tail, one offs or two offs. And you're never going to get ahead of that without something to help you.
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, we just hit the new year. We're all back from the holidays. I think I remember how to do my job again, but looking forward to 2025. I mean, what's going to happen? What's the big thing that's going on this year?
So I think you're going to see a normalization of AI. Like I think right now it's still like kind of like people look at it as not necessarily a novelty, but I think they look at it as like, I am going to kick the tires on this thing. I am going to try this thing. And in a lot of cases, we had customers a year or two ago come up to us, and they keep asking, like, they don't know why they want AI. They just want it. Like literally we had customers like, everyone's talking about AI. Give us AI. And we're like, whoa, what do you want to accomplish with AI? And I think now what we're noticing is people are savvier. They like kind of know what problem they're trying to solve with AI. And I think by the end of this year, you're going to see more targeted solutions that are facilitated with AI, as opposed to like, hey, AI, put it in your product. I don't know what that means to you, but do it anyway. And I think you're going to start seeing them, and people are going to label that as like the trough of disappointment, but in actuality, or disillusionment, but in actuality, it's not. It's understanding the best place to use the tool.
Yeah. This is my thought, and this is what I'm doing in a lot of my implementations. Again, this is going to be very reliant on good data out there, people. Photos in search and barcode scanning in search. I mean, this is my market where people deal with something called VMI, or vendor managed inventory. They're going to a bin, a shelf. They want to scan that to purchase it and go about their day. Or you're a repair guy. You're going to be, working on a stove or a refrigerator or something like that. You pull the broken part out, go to your favorite component store website, take a picture of that product and find those results. Like that's what I want to see in this next year.
I think you're so it's funny because I have like in my house I have like a cabinet that's kind of broken, and the latch is older than me, and I'm like, I don't know what this is. So I literally took a photo of it and like, help me find this product latch, because I don't want to change all the latches.
So I'm a Google guy. I'm Android phone and all that. When Android released their software update where Lens is a hotkey now,
And
like you just hold the
circle,
bottom.
like
I have not done like a Google search since then. I have just been, and it's amazing how my life has changed from that. Like, I think that's got to be pretty much the top of everyone's
and again,
list.
it's table. We're gonna buy this time next year. It's gonna be table stakes.
Mhm.
Like especially if you're an apparel company, you're gonna need to provide some functionality. We're like, oh, I saw this like dress on a TV show.
Yeah.
Like all the time, it's like, oh, that's a really cool outfit they're wearing. I'm watching a bunch of K-pop, Korean drama now, and I'm like, their clothes are amazing. I'm like, that is an amazing vest. I want that vest.
I have the Bruce Lee DJ T-shirt that
That's awesome.
Robert Downey Jr. wore, and I think it was Avengers 2. So yeah, and I took a picture of the TV. Like
it's so funny because you mentioned that just real quick. We did this like this hackathon competition, and where people had to make quirky websites. And one was a movie suggestion site based on how similar movie posters looked.
Yeah.
And every Marvel poster looked the same. It was like
yeah.
a circle with people jumping out of it. It was like we didn't even notice until we saw them all on one screen, and we're like, "Oh wow, there's definitely a look to Marvel movie posters." But yeah, no, I think that, and I think that that's going to be it. It's going to help you make your life easier.
Yeah.
And
so in order of making people's lives easier, how do they reach out to you and the Algolia team?
So definitely check out the Algolia website at algolia.com. There's a lot there. Sign up. We get thousands and thousands of signups, and we really watch them all. And we really, if you ever have any questions or support, you could definitely reach out to them. Also, you could just reach out to me directly. It's going to be nick.vlku at Algolia. And I'll be glad to answer. I love talking to customers. I love talking to people who are just even kicking a tire. So seriously, people are like, why do you do that? Why do you tell like people, all these people to reach? And I love it. I love knowing more and more about how people are using the product, because we're a pretty generalized solution. We talk a lot about e-commerce, but we have customers that do really interesting things that are not e-commerce related. And I think I always love seeing a new implementation as something I never expected before. That is like my favorite to see. So if you want to play around with it, just go sign up. 1 million free records. It's seriously, it's a fun thing to play with.
There you go. And if you do have Algolia or are thinking about Algolia, feel free to reach out to AmericanEagle.com. We have full Kickstart packages where we provide the support, onboarding services. We help provide the recommendations. And of course, whenever you do launch your Algolia implementation on your website, you want to make sure to drive traffic to it. Our digital marketing services are around to help out and drive traffic to the site, which will have people using the search, which means that AI can actually have good data and behavior to do the stuff that it promised to do.
Exactly. And you guys have been a spectacular partner. Like, you guys really know what you're doing. So I know when you do suggest or recommend Algolia, it really is the right tool to solve the problems your clients are seeing. So seriously, definitely reach out to them and let them, and they'll definitely get you up and running. Their client list is pretty spectacular.
All right, Nick, thanks for your time.
Thank you so much, man.
Thank you everyone for listening to the Lessons of Tomorrow podcast. You can always find out more at AmericanEagle.com and the services we provide. If you look in the description below, there's also a lot more information and other podcasts that you could listen to. So make sure to like, comment, subscribe, and share episodes with others. I'm your guest host, Brendan Cameron, and we'll catch you in the next lesson.